Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is your host Jenny. Guys, I miss you. I don't know. I feel like whenever I spend a week or maybe 2 weeks and I don't talk to you guys, I always feel like I miss you for real. But anyway, so we're going to have a cozy conversation. I'm going to talk about doing business in Africa and how bad it can be when you actually work with your relatives, your siblings. I mean, your relatives basically. And some of the things that I had gone through and why I kind of made the decision not to hire relatives anymore. There are some exceptions, but we're going to go into it. And then while we're sipping some mango mimosa, let me show you guys. So good. This is going to be my first time trying it. So let's go ahead and talk about this conversation, which I feel like is already long overdue. And if you guys have been watching me for a while, you know what I'm doing. You know the businesses that I've been investing in. I've been an entrepreneur since 2017, and I've had the ups and downs of hiring the wrong people and working with family members, relatives. And I feel like I'm in the position today that I can actually tell you guys, don't make the same mistakes that I made, because I really thought that I was helping other people. And turns out they were just, trying to get advantage of me and my kindness. So the first thing that I'm going to say is that before you hire any type of relative, really make sure they are competent. They have the skill set, okay? Or maybe they're the type of people that you can actually train. Many of the people that I've tried to work with when it comes to relatives, they're like, when people are looking for jobs, they will tell you up front that, of course, I want to work. Of course, I'm looking for a job. Let me give you an example real quick. So my bridal boutique, back in 2018, okay, 2018, I wanted to hire a second person at my store because I had a store manager and I wanted to hire somebody else. Because usually when you get bride, they come with like family members, and then it becomes hectic because everybody is looking at gowns, they're touching at things. So in the beginning I had 2 people on staff, but then the other person left, and then I wanted to hire somebody, and I thought of one of my cousins, right? I remember giving her an offer. I mean, not because she was skilled, just because she was my cousin and she was looking for a job. So I remember telling her, hey girl, I have this position at the store. You don't even have to shop every day. If you can actually shop at least 3 times, because I wanted somebody part-time, but I also wanted her to be taking care of the social media platform, right? Like, because we do a lot of adverts on social media. Something fell. We do a lot of adverts on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, and I wanted somebody to keep up with like potential clients' messages and stuff like that. At first, she was so excited. She was like, of course, blah, blah, blah. So, okay, cool. We had a conversation and I told her how much I was going to be paying her, which at the time was more than her previous job. I just want to keep that in mind, okay? Was more than her previous job. So, no story short, couple days later, keep in mind I'm in the US, right? Couple days later, she texted me this long, WhatsApp message talking about she talked to her boyfriend and her boyfriend was not agreeing with the fact that she should work for me at that salary. It wasn't that she shouldn't work for me. It was like the boyfriend, guys, listen to me. The boyfriend was against the fact that I was only paying her for this much. I was shocked because she could have said, you know what, can you please raise my salary? Can you whatever, right? And she was even going to be earning the same salary that my store manager was going to be earning. And I just thought to myself, okay, maybe we can negotiate something since she's going to be taking over social media, like being like a community manager, if I can put it like that. But she was just supposed to show up at the store 3 times a week. I negotiated something with her, with my cousin, right? I was like, okay, I'm going to add 5,000 more. So it's not the type of store that people walk in and out every single hour of the day. It's pretty slow. Long story short, she didn't want the job because I wasn't willing to give her the salary that her boyfriend wanted. And I had to be like, girl, deuces. I was like, deuces. We had a conversation in May, and sometime in June, she came back to me, like text message talking about she really wants the job. She doesn't have any income, blah, 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 blah. And she's willing to take the salary that I was willing to give her. And at that point, I was just so disappointed in her that I was like, no, we're not going to do that here. Okay. Like, I thought of you. You didn't even apply. I thought of you. Like other people that I have hired, whether it's at the school, whether it's my consulting firm, like I make people, whether you're a relative or not, I make people apply like normally, like everybody else, because I want to make sure that I'm getting somebody who has the skill set in order to take a position. And that was one of the first time that I was like, let me just give a chance. Let me give this cousin of mine who is always complaining I don't have a job, let me give her an opportunity to work somewhere. And that's how, it was done. One of the reasons that I think the salary was, mentioned, knowing that she wasn't even earning that before, but I think it was just because I was coming from abroad. I was the cousin that live in the US. You see what I mean? So because I live in the US and I deal with the dollars, of course, I'm supposed to pay her way more than whatever other people are earning. But anyway, that's beside the point. So now let's talk about my school in Cameroon. So I had a head teacher back from 2017 to 2020. I mean, when I say 2020, it was like school year 2019, 2020. Okay. I had a head teacher that was actually my uncle, and he was chosen by my dad. I didn't really hire him. So, and because I was still in the US full time, like I trusted, because I mean, who are you going to trust? It's one of those things that is hard to trust strangers, but sometimes strangers or people that you don't even know who apply are actually more loyal than your own relatives. Let's say I've worked with my uncle for 3 years. So 2017, 18, and 19, right? And 2019, I decided to show up in Cameroon unannounced. Like my uncle didn't know that I was coming. And we just showed up. Like my sister and we just showed up. And I remember I remember his facial expression. He was shocked, right? So we showed up and I said, I need all the books, I need the receipts, I need everything, because I wanted to conduct an audit, a financial audit. By the way, at the time I was working as an auditor. So you guys can already tell where I was going. So I was like, because I've been doubting, like every year I'm like, the money is missing. The money is missing. How come we're not even, like, I understand you're not making enough money because the school is new. But then I just did not understand the numbers. Like if we have 100 students and the students are each paying this amount of fees, right? It should equal to that. And the numbers were not just giving. So I remember showing up in Cameroon, conducting an audit, and then next thing you know, there were millions missing. And I had a meeting with him. Because, okay, the other thing is that when you're dealing with a relative that is like an uncle or an auntie, sometimes you need to involve your parents. And I'm saying that why? Because I did not hire him. My dad did. Because you guys know I was still in the US. So I trusted that my parents would pick the right person. But anyway, long story short, my dad hired him. So, and I knew that if I just had a meeting with him alone, he would be on the defensive. He would be fighting that idea. So I made sure that the meeting took place at my parents' place. And then we had a meeting, my sister, my mom, my dad, and my uncle. And we started talking numbers, right? And then, because when you talk to your parents, and then your dad is like, oh, this is my cousin, your uncle cannot do this to us. Your uncle cannot do this to you. And then I'm telling my dad, I'm like, yes, Dad, my uncle can do this to me. Because many of the relatives that we have in Africa actually are just taking advantage of us, And I know there are some exceptions, and I'm going to come to that. But so yeah, I had a meeting with my parents, and then next thing you know, there were millions missing, and then we're asking him all the questions, and then guess what? 2019, when I was conducting the financial audit, that was in the month of November. I found out that my uncle was getting married in December and that he just bought a new car. Not even a new car. That was his first car. So go figure where he took the money. You guys can already tell, right? So he bought himself a new car. And it wasn't like a brand new car. It was like a used car or whatever. But that was his first car. So he bought himself that car. And then, he bought himself the car the same year. Maybe like beginning 2019. So by the end, December 2019, he was getting married. And you guys, if you are African, you know how much expensive African weddings can be. And I was just like everything wasn't making sense when it comes to the books, right? But the fact that he was getting married and he had bought the car the same year, I was like, oh, this is where the money is going. So I had to let him go. I mean, my sister and I had to let him go, but we could not. This is another challenge that we have as the diaspora, people who live abroad, but then you go once in a while back home in order to oversee your businesses. At the time, that was my life, right? Like I was still making money here and I was taking that money to invest back home. So I couldn't just fire him and not have a head teacher, because if you guys know, that's like you firing the CEO or the CFO that you appointed, right? So I had to let him go through another year. So we're talking about November 2020. No, November 2019. So we had to finish the year because the school year starts September. So from September 2019, the school year will end sometime in May, June 2020. Like we had a heartfelt, we had a lot of, like words that were exchanged, not insults, but just like me speaking my mind and telling him where I stand. And I thought he understood. And then he promised that he was going to do better. And then he was supposed to repay the money that was missing, right? So we figured I didn't have the bandwidth, right? I'm not even going to lie, I did not have the bandwidth to let go of him and hire somebody else right then and there, because I was in Cameroon for like a month, right? And I was still overseeing the sales events that was going on at my store. So there was a lot going on, guys. Whenever I go to Cameroon at that time, I remember, every year we go to Cameroon, it would just be like a lot. And I used to do the back and forth thing. Like you would go to Cameroon for a month, you come back for 6 months, you go back for a month, and so forth. So long story short, he stayed at the school. But guess what? Because my sister and I, we already knew that we're going to fire him at the end of that school year. So June 2020, that's when he was going to be told that he's not coming back. But because the pandemic happened and I was stuck in the US, right? Because that was when my permanent move to Cameroon was actually scheduled May 2020. And because the pandemic happened, I was stuck and I couldn't go to Cameroon. And the borders opened back, like, I think it was August 2020. And my flight was booked because everybody was just getting, the flight canceled. And my flight was booked in September. So I ended up showing to Cameroon in September. I showed up in September and find out that my uncle quit with no words, not even a phone call, not even a text message, nothing. He just quit. And not only did he quit, but he also made sure to tell the teachers at the school, because I think at the time we had like 12 teachers, now we have like 24. He told the teachers that there was not going to be any school. The school is going down. We're going bankrupt, whatever story he cooked, right? Guys, as I'm telling you this thing, it hurts my feeling again, because you guys cannot even imagine how much money you invest into making the school happen, the construction and everything, the management, the trips to Cameroon back and forth. And then having in September, because of the pandemic, school did not start until October 2020. And September 2020, when my sister and I showed up, we asked all the teachers, that were there last year to come back, and then we can have a meeting, whatever, and find out that there were only 6 teachers that remained. The other 6 teachers left. And when we asked them what had happened, many of the teachers said, "Madam, we were told there's not going to be any school here anymore, blah, 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 blah." So not only did my uncle left, but he also made sure that the teachers left, right? Half of the staff left. But he also made sure that he took some of the school supplies, some of the documents that were important. He took, guys, it was a whole thing. So I have 1 month from when I landed in Cameroon to when school is supposed to start. I had 1 month to hire not only a head teacher, but also an additional 6 teachers, okay? And I remember I was swamped. And not only that, okay, the other thing is that he also made sure to tell the neighborhoods, right? The parents who lived in the neighborhood, who enrolled the kids at our school, he made sure to tell them that there was not going to be any school there anymore. Guys, I'm still in awe Because up to today, right, this thing happened back in 2020. There was just chaos. Like there were chaos. And then my sister and I worked so much on bringing back the reputation of the school, right? Because many people, like I've had many parents that came up to me afterward, and the parents were like, we were told ABCG, like we were told there was not going to be any school here. And you will be amazed some of the things that we found out. That wow. I can just laugh today, right? But that wasn't a good season of my life. It wasn't a good episode per se, because I felt lost. Like finally I decided to make it back to Cameroon. I decided to pack all my belongings in the US and ship myself to Cameroon with all my belongings, and this is it. I have to. And I remember we spent so many sleepless nights just figuring out how are we going to be advertising, like the marketing budget that we put in September 2020 in order to get the parents who were like, I'm not going to be enrolling my kids there because that school is no longer going to be, like running. And we had to work extra hard, make flyers, ask teachers that were still on staff to go door to doors in those the neighborhood. If you guys know Cameroon, it's more like impersonal type of relationship. Like the neighborhood, everybody knows everybody, basically. So we had to work a lot, and I think some of the parents that ended up enrolling their kids again, is because we were there. Like we were there. They saw our faces and they were like, oh, so there's going to be another school year again. So the school is not going down. And that's why when I talk to people about investing in Africa, right? And I talk to people about if your business is not working, if you are not making enough money, it's because you are not there. And that is the reality. Because I think I could have in November 2019, I could have fired my uncle. But then I just did not have the bandwidth. I didn't have the bandwidth to fire him because I was going back to the US and I knew I was eventually going to come back, like I was going to be moving permanently, but I didn't have the bandwidth and I left him there. And that's just to say, at the end of the day, there are some relatives that will uplift you and there are some relatives that will put you down, right? They will drag you down. Who are you to give them orders? And I think there's also this thing of like, I'm a woman, I'm a young woman compared to my uncle. And he probably felt like, why should I give him orders? Why should I tell him what to do? He's older than me. And there's a lot of disrespect when you're in Africa. There's a lot of disrespect when you're a young female entrepreneur and you're trying to hire people who are older than you, right? Not everybody is going to be disrespectful, but in my experience for the last 7 years, I can tell you for a fact, is it 7 or 8 years? Maybe the last since 2017. I can tell you for a fact that I've been disrespected so much, I let people do the talking, right? Like, because I would rather have people underestimate me than to actually be the type of woman who's going to be snapping every time somebody says something. Anyway, I'm not going to go there, but I wanted to talk about this topic, and I gave you guys a few examples of how it can actually go bad if you hire, your own relatives. I've had relatives that I hired when it comes to construction, because you guys know I'm always into construction. I'm always building something. So when we started, my sister and I, when we started operating the school, there was one building, okay? So that was the reason why, and at that time I wasn't even vlogging really. And it was until I moved to Cameroon that I started vlogging about the school. And at that time, I think we're building the second building. And then now we have a third one that is called the office building, basically. So it's been tough. And I've had a lot, and because I'm always in construction mode, whether it's a school, my apartment complex, and so forth, I'm having to hire a lot of relatives, some people who are relatives that I may not even have known before, but my dad would be like, hey, there's this third cousin of yours that is looking for a job, he's a builder and you can actually take him at your construction site. And it always goes wrong because there are so many excuses that people make when you guys are relatives. Like if the mom is not feeling well, they will come up with that excuse as in, I did not show up. First of all, they don't even tell you that they're not going to show up. They just expect that they will get a VIP treatment. That's what I was told by somebody else, right? That I should have treated them VIP because we are relatives. Um, they wouldn't tell you that, I'm not going to show up. They just don't show up and they expect you to understand. They will request that you give them the salary ahead of time because they're family. They will lie to you on so many things going on, right? And then they will butt heads with the other construction people just because they're family, right? And because they are relatives of the boss, they get to tell the other people what is wrong with them. Like I've had guys, just name it. I'm sure I've went through it. Like the ridiculous things that you go through when you actually hire family members and people who want to talk on your behalf, right? Like you don't even say nothing. You will just find out this cousin of yours had an argument with somebody else. And then they said you instructed them or you gave them, the authorization to do ABCD when in fact you didn't even know what was going on. So all I'm trying to say is just be careful when you hire family members or relatives because unfortunately many of them take you for granted. There are some of them who will appreciate you. There are some of them that feel like you haven't given them enough. And unfortunately, you cannot really change people. Like this thing of like, we're going to go back home and save people. I think we don't understand how deep things can be and how tough it can be to undo some of the learnings that people have had over the years, since their childhood. And I think this perception of like people come from abroad, invest in Africa, people just, they expect you to have money. They expect you to have more to give them money. There are some exceptions. Let me go ahead and give you the exception. The exception is going to be my store manager, right? You guys know my brother's store, my manager. She's actually a relative of mine. She married into the family, right? And she's a relative of mine. There is no way you will ever, maybe now you guys know, but there's no way you will ever communicate with her and feel like her and I are actually relatives because she is so professional. And she is the only one that I've worked with since 2017 that made sure that she works extra. Like you guys can even imagine. I can complain about certain things, of course, but overall, she's been somebody that I've never had to ask the questions, is the customer, like if the customer has an issue, was she able to solve the issue? Or is something missing at the store, because I sell, like I'm a retail business, right? Like I sell clothes, I sell things, accessories, and I've never missed anything. Even when we do the inventory check, right? Never missed anything. Even when I do the audit or we do the books together, never missed a dime. Every single thing that she will spend, she will make sure to let me know. And then we have, ways to record every expenses, every sales. And she keeps track of all of that because, that's what I taught her. And I think she's the only person, that's why I say there are exceptions. She's the only person that so far hasn't disappointed me. Of course, we've had, we butt heads many times about the way she was doing things, how she should properly do them, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, I think she's the only person so far that I've worked with who wanted to see me win. Like she will even give me advice as in Cameroon, this is what happens, blah, 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 blah. And I will value her advice. And as I'm winning, I will always make sure that she's also winning. But anyway, so I wanted to give you guys this little pep talk about how tough it has been or can be to do business in Africa. And it's getting darker. Don't know why. It's really getting like it's only 4 p.m. guys, but it's so dark. And yeah, I wanted to tell you guys my personal experience, and I have many other stories that I can actually, but guys, we don't want to spend like a full-blown hour or two talking about what has gone wrong because there are so many things that went wrong. Okay, so many things, but be careful when you hire relatives. There are so many excuses that they give and they expect you to understand just because you're family. There are instances where they actually really do care about you, but my advice is that just not that avoid working with them, because if you can actually extend your relative a job opportunity, why not? But be careful. There are so many expectations that comes with the fact that you're coming from abroad, meaning that you have money to spend, right? Money to give. And just be careful out there, okay? Be careful. So thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. subscribe, please. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you guys have any other question, let me know. I'll be glad, when the time is right, I'll be glad to actually address that. I'm going to continue drinking my mango mimosa. I'm supposed to head out, so I'll talk to you guys in the next vlog. I'm really tired at this point. I'm so tired, and it's really great outside. Like, I don't even know. Houston has a bipolar weather. I probably told you guys already. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.